Sarah made her way through the tall grass fields of Elmore. A few stars and the yellow glow of a full moon were her only guidance as she searched for her destination. The Aradia Festival was held once a year, but the location was often left just as mysterious as the witch goddess herself. Sarah had never been to the festival before, nor had she ever met someone who attended, but the rumors circulating the event were often negative ones, and thus she could not convince friend or family to join her in her pursuit to find it. Elmore's location was close to that of the Deadlands, a part of Fenrir that was said to be Aradia's domain. Therefore, it would make sense for the festival to have been set up near the fields. Sarah had visited Elmore many times in the past, and she was familiar with the territory surrounding it, so it was surprising to her when she emerged from the tall grass fields and found herself in a forest. She walked along a desolate, twisting road within this ominous forest, and after walking for a short time, she could no longer see the fields of Elmore behind her. This discovery would have deterred a less determined individual, but Sarah wanted nothing more than to find the Aradia Festival, so she pressed onward. Though the fields she just came from were warm, the forest was filled with an unnatural chill, and wind howled through the trees around her. As she made it deeper into the forest, she began to see images and markings on the trees all around her. She could not make out what they said or meant, but she felt as if it was guiding her in a certain direction. The forest finally opened up to reveal a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a grotesque altar adorned with withered flowers, candles, and unsettling effigies. At the heart of it all was a statue of Aradia, whose stone eyes felt as if they were following Sarah's every move. Around the altar, a group of hooded figures chanted in a language Sarah had never heard before. Their voices echoed around her as if she stood in the center of them instead of far away, and the sound of it all sent shivers down her spine. She hesitated, contemplating whether to turn back or approach the gathering. As if to further persuade her, one of the hooded figures suddenly turned around and locked eyes with her. Though it was hard to fully make out the figure's face under the hood, the parts of its mouth she could see looked decayed and rotting. Flesh hung from bone as if it was melting off, but remained attached as if petrified. Panic surged through her, but she could not bring herself to run. The hooded group parted, revealing a sinister path lined with torches leading further into the woods. The hooded figure furthest from her stepped into the pathway, lowering its hood to reveal a circular mask. The mask was covered in marks similar to those she saw on the trees in the forest. Sarah's curiosity got the better of her, and she cautiously approached the masked man. "Stay quiet and walk with me," said the masked man, but the voice felt distant, as if someone else had said the words rather than the person standing in front of her. Sarah tried to speak, despite what he had said, but words would not come out. She nodded in response instead, but the masked man had already begun to walk deeper into the forest. Sarah followed in silence as the forest grew darker and a sense of foreboding washed over her. As they walked, Sarah's surroundings began to change. Trees twisted into grotesque shapes, and the air grew heavy with the scent of rotting leaves and decay. The eerie festival of the witch that had initially piqued her interest now seemed like an inescapable nightmare. The masked man led Sarah to a field that was similar to those in Elmore. "Did he lead me out?" she wondered, but the field was enclosed by the same forest they had just traveled through. In the middle of this small field was yet another statue of Aradia, and the base of the statue was covered in masks akin to the one the man who escorted her was wearing. Sarah was walking without realizing the masked man had stopped quite a few feet behind her. She looked back at him, once again trying to speak but not finding the words. Suddenly, a voice startled her. "Lost, are we?" Sarah turned around to see a man leaning against the statue. Was he there the whole time and she somehow missed him? This man was unlike any Sarah had seen before. His eyes twinkled with mischief, and a wicked grin played on his lips. His clothes were rather raggedy, but there was an air of otherworldly charm about him. Sarah finally found her voice, though it was trembling as she spoke. Yes, I'm lost and I need to find a way out of this place. Can you help me? The man chuckled softly, a sound that echoed with a peculiar mix of amusement and malice. Oh, my dear, I could help you find a way out, but where's the fun in that? How about we play a little game instead? Sarah was taken aback, but felt she had no choice but to entertain the mysterious man's request. What kind of game? She asked cautiously. The man's grin widened. Let's play a game of riddles. If you answer my riddle correctly, I'll help you find a way out of this forest. And if I fail? Asked Sarah. She was trying to hide how nervous she was to hear the answer. Well, let's just say I get to have a bit more fun. Reluctantly, Sarah agreed to the challenge, and the man began the riddle. I'm the key to life, but I can take it as well. I'm invisible, but I can be felt. What am I? Sarah racked her brain, but the answer eluded her. She finally admitted defeat. I don't know. What is the answer? The man's laughter was both mocking and melodic. My dear, the answer is time. Time is the key to life, but it can also take it. You can't see it, but you can certainly feel its passing. Sarah's heart sank as the man's words echoed through the field. She did not know what failing the riddle would entail, and the man's smile gave her an uneasy feeling. Come along now, my lost lamb. The night is young. However, when Sarah followed the man to another path, he vanished. She looked behind her and could not see the field. Her only option was to continue forward, so she did. For hours she traveled. The sounds around her and the inevitable return of the mysterious man made her anxious. Her body grew tired and weak, and her mind slipped further into despair. Just as she was about to give up, she saw the man in the distance. Standing on either side of him were two men wearing the masks she saw earlier, and they were all standing in front of yet another statue of Aradia. Sarah tried her best to hide the fact she was exhausted as she approached them. There you are, said the man, the wide grin still adorning his face. Tell me, what do you desire most, dear Sarah? She had never told him her name, so now she was wondering if this was all in her mind, all some sick, twisted nightmare. I desire to escape this place and find a way home. The smile finally vanished from the man's face, and he nodded. Very well, my dear. Your wish shall be granted. With a wave of his hand, a path appeared before her, leading through a dimly lit archway made of gnarled branches and tangled vines. It seemed to be the way out, the path she had been longing for. Sarah, filled with a mix of relief and hope, rushed toward the archway, determined to leave this nightmare behind. As she stepped through the archway, the world around her shifted. The air grew colder, and the once whispering leaves fell silent. She now stood in a desolate, barren landscape. The sky was a dull, lifeless gray, and the ground was cracked and devoid of vegetation. This place was the Deadlands, the domain of Aradia the witch goddess. Panicking, Sarah turned back to the way she came, but much like before it had vanished, leaving her trapped in this desolate realm. Suddenly, eerie whispers filled the air, and Sarah felt a presence watching her from all directions. The statues she passed along the way to get here were surrounding her, their stony eyes gazing upon her with an unsettling intensity. Aradia was near. Sarah could feel it. The real witch goddess was approaching. Terror coursed through Sarah as she realized this man had lured her right into Aradia's clutches, and there was no way out. The man's wicked laugh echoed through the Deadlands, a haunting reminder of the deceit that had brought her here. She wanted nothing more than to find and experience the festival held in honor of the witch goddess, but this was not a yearly event. Anyone could be brought here in the same fashion she was. at any time. She was just the latest victim of many. Sarah would be just another lost soul in this never-ending celebration of darkness. And from that very darkness, the witch emerged.